Yo, guys, welcome back again today. Today we're going to be talking about Queen Ranavalona III. Ranavalona was born in Madagascar in 1861 in the village of Amperrive by the name of Razafin. She was born into the royal family and was the niece of Ranavalona II. Madagascar for hundreds to thousands of years had different states and groups of people controlling different parts of the country. In the 1400s, the Hova people would move into the central part of Madagascar. They would create a small kingdom and expanded it over time. They created an irrigation system, and they would be able to drain local areas of excess water and grow more crops such as rice. This would advance the kingdom quickly due to food supply. The Merina kingdom would grow in population and political power. The unique thing about the kingdom is that the Merina kingdom was ran by queens more than kings throughout its history. The first queen would expand the kingdom, and soon after the first king would order his son, who commanded his army, to conquer the rest of the northern part of the country. Radama I would finish uniting the kingdom and country in 1810, making smaller kingdoms tribute states to the Merina kingdom. Europeans in small numbers had visited the island for some time now. Most did not find it attractive as the hot weather and foreign diseases would affect them, but the locals and their bodies were already adapted. Though before long, the French in the 1800s would show up to the island with other plans. The British also saw the island for its abundant natural resources. Radama II would come into power till 1863, and the kingdom would push back at European advances. The two European nations would soon race and struggle over the island kingdom. This would be the beginning of Razafin. Before she was known as Ranavalona III, Razafin would be educated by a British man from London who was a missionary religious teacher. She would be raised under the Christian religion rather than the Madagascar's traditional beliefs. The current queen at the time and her aunt adopted European religions which were spreading all over Africa in the 1800s. She was a very smart student and was very interested in learning. She would also always have an upbeat attitude about learning as well. Razafin would marry in her teenage years, and she would marry a nobleman named Ratrimo. At the age of 22, her husband would die. Rumors say that her husband was poisoned because she was of royal blood. Rainilla Iaya Voni would become her next husband. His older brother created the aristocratic revolution in 1863. He was also married to Ranavalona II, in which she would die shortly after. This would help move power within the kingdom. Rumors were that he poisoned Razafin former husband to change the kingdom's power structure. Once he married her, he would change the kingdom into a constitutional monarchy. This would mean the queen would have to share power with a prime minister, in which he was. With no queen in place, Razafin being of royal blood, seemed to be the best successor. Rainilla would agree, and she would be made Queen Ranavalona III. She would let schoolboys and girls lead the ceremony. Traditionally, royal and army guards would wear traditional clothing and spears to bring in the new queen. Instead, the queen made schoolboys do this and perform traditional ceremony acts. Soon after, the FrancoHover Wars would occur in 1883 and lasted 13 years. During this time, the French would attack cities around the island, starting on the east coast. The French would continuously attack the island until a treaty was reached and negotiated. This treaty stated that the kingdom would have to put a French representative in the royal house and pay the French government a big sum of money in 1886. The FrancoHover War would be over, but the Queen did not rest. She reached out to the United States for help, but President Grover Cleveland denied while also trying to take over Mexico at the time. The British wanted a piece of the island as well, though France struck a deal with the British to give them control of Zanzibar in the East African country. In return, the British would recognize Madagascar as a French colony. In 1894, for 2 years, another Franco-Hova War would break out. This was due to the Queen breaking a part of the treaty with the French in 1886. 1 year later, in 1985, the French would send over 20,000 troops to the island. Many of the troops died from tropical diseases, such as malaria. The French would pull troops and request help from other African countries and territories that were used to the climate. Algerian troops would show up to the island to help. The kingdom would not fight back to the extent that they could, and some believe because internal strife was happening as well. The combination of invasion, being cut off from help from the outside world, and tribute kingdoms revolting back at the kingdom, this would lead to disaster. The destruction of port cities, revolts, and the desire to protect her people, she would sign another treaty with the French for peace. This, unfortunately, would lead down a rabbit hole. The French would take more and more land over time. As her husband aged, the French would gain more and more power. Over time, trade with other kingdoms and countries would decline due to them acknowledging that Madagascar was a French colony. The Queen would ask for aid from the British, which they did help hold off the final takeover of the island. Soon after, her husband would be exiled to Algeria's capital city of Algiers in North Africa and died a year later. The Queen would lose port cities, and soon the French would take over the kingdom and the island. The French did let her stay as a figurehead to help stop guerrilla warfare and revolts by loyal citizens of the island. The citizens did not want Western ways and the Christianized ways as well. The royal family and kingdom were only puppets at this time, and the French pulled the strings in the background. A new treaty would be signed that same year. This treaty would make the island a French protectorate. The Queen being a symbol to the people did not work, and soon the Queen was exiled as well. Back in Paris, France, the government would send a new French military government to the island to control it. The Queen would be moved to a nearby island by the name of Royuan. The Queen was sent there with her extended family and 14-year-old niece, Razafina de Montria. Her niece would be pregnant with a French soldier and would die shortly after birth of her child. The Queen would take in her niece's child and daughter as her own. During their 2-year stay on the island, they had servants, 2-floor home, and a big garden. The French would soon go into conflict with the British over the African country of Sudan. The Queen would be moved once more due to the French not wanting the Queen's presence exciting revolution on the close-by island of Madagascar. In 1895, the Queen and several extended family members were moved to North Africa, Algeria. She missed home terribly but could not return. The French government would give the Queen money to live on throughout the year, a pension, and servants, and a villa. She would be very well accepted and charming to local Algerian high class. She would be permitted to travel to Paris, France eventually, and was very respected by French citizens. Over her many visits to France, French citizens would think that the Queen adapted amazingly from being a queen to a shell of a queen. French citizens would complain over the years of her visits and protested the French government give her more of a pension to live on. This would happen multiple times, and her yearly pension from the French government would go up. In a way, the Queen was used to the Western world due to her upbringing on the island, but also connected to her traditions and roots back home. The queen would petition the French government many times to return back to Madagascar, but the French government never granted these requests. In 1917, the queen would die back in Algeria at the age of 55. In 1938, her body was returned to Madagascar after the Algerian government was denied by the French government to pay for her tomb's upkeep. So yo guys, today we learned about the last queen of Madagascar. Please like, subscribe, turn on your bell notification as well to get all my videos. Check out my latest NFT. It's an African lineup called Diaspora, and it's an African diaspora lineup. So it's different online collectible art NFTs that you guys can purchase and buy. It's a collectible. And the link is down in the description. Please like me on all social medias, which is Afric Network, which is Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud, Facebook, Snapchat, and TikTok. Each one teach one. Always love each other. Always learn from each other. And yo guys, peace to Madagascar. One love.